Two of the most iconic fighter planes of World War II, one British and one American. Ever since they were born, there was a debate which one was better. Fans of both aircraft argue for decades now why one or the other was the better fighter plane. To be able to compare them, first we need to take a look at their history a bit, to understand when and why they were developed. The Spitfire is the older design from the two. Its history started in 1931, when the British Air Ministry started looking for a new fighter plane capable of doing 250 miles an hour. The plane was designed by R.J. Mitchell as a short-range high-performance interceptor, but his design wasn't successful on the first try. The initial Type 224 looked quite different from the later Spitfire shape. Only in 1934, after several improvements and receiving the then brand new Rolls-Royce PV-12 engine, which later became famous as the Merlin, was it accepted, and the first flight of the prototype K50-54 happened on 5th of March 1936. Mitchell continued to work on the Spitfire until his early death in 1937. The Spitfire was quickly acknowledged as a capable aircraft. Not perfect, but a very good base for additional development and improvements. So much in fact, that as we all know, it served all through World War II and became one of the best fighters of that era. It was developed in every aspect over the years. Its frame, wings, engine and armament all changed over its lifetime, and its increase in performance and capabilities show how well designed aircraft it was from the beginning. It received stronger and stronger engines, which required changes on the wings and control surfaces, while the weaponry changed from the initial 7.7mm machine guns to 20mm cannons. When it was designed, the main thinking was that for defending Britain, it needs to be a good nimble interceptor with very high climb rate to be able to intercept bombers in time, and this remained its main strong point all through its development. The P-51 on the other hand was a later design, and its birth was partly thanks to the British as well. And no, I'm not talking about the Merlin engine swap yet. The British government established a purchasing commission in the United States in 1938, headed by Sir Henry Self. One of their tasks was to establish American-made fighter plane production for the RAF. As their standards were quite high, only the Curtiss P-40 came close to being accepted by them. But the Curtiss plant was working at full capacity, so they couldn't take new orders. When James Kinderberger, president of North American, approached the commission to sell their B-25 bomber, Sir Henry asked him if they could produce the P-40 fighters under license for them. Kinderberger told Sir Henry that they could produce a better aircraft in shorter time than it would take to set up a manufacturing line for the P-40. But Sir Henry was concerned that North American never designed the fighter before, so insisted they should acquire the Curtiss XP-40 design, which was a planned successor of the P-40 but was eventually abandoned. If you want to know more about this story and the connection between the British, Curtiss and North American through World War II, I have separate videos on the P-51 and the P-40, so I recommend you watch those as well. As usual, you can find the link in the description or at the end of this video. In May 1940, the British and North American signed a commencement for the Mustang project. Only a few months later, in October, the prototype had his first flight. The Mustang was not designed with a specific role in mind like the Spitfire, but rather as an all-around fighter, following the usual design principles of the time. Initially it used the Ellison V1710 engines, similarly to the Curtiss P-40, and this engine with its single-stage supercharger gave the Mustang the same limitations it gave to the P-40. Above 15,000 feet, the engine's performance dropped rapidly, so the plane had good performance at low and medium altitudes, but did poorly at high altitudes. Luckily for the Mustang, in 1942 it was suggested to feed the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, or its license-built version, the Packard V1650 in the fighter. These engines with their two-stage superchargers had much better high-altitude performance than the Ellison engines, and finally they gave the Mustang the performance it needed. And if we talk about performance, let's look at the numbers. I'm going to compare the top versions of both planes here, the Spitfire Mark 14 and the P-51D. The dimensions of the two fighters were very similar, with the Spitfire being 32 feet 8 inches long, with a wingspan of 36 feet 10 inches, while the P-51 was 32 feet 3 inches long, with 37 feet wingspan. However, the Mustang was a much heavier aircraft. Its empty weight was more than 1,000 pounds more than the Spitfire's, and the maximum takeoff weight was 12,000 pounds for the Mustang compared to the 8,400 for the Spitfire. The engine in the Spitfire version developed just over 2,000 horsepower, while the Mustang had a maximum engine output of 1,720 horsepower. The two planes could reach almost the same maximum speed, 440 miles an hour for the Mustang and 441 miles an hour for the Spitfire. Their service ceiling again was very similar, 41,900 feet for the Mustang and 43,500 feet for the Spitfire. And here we get to the differences, which came from the different roles the planes were designed. The Spitfire, as a light, short-range interceptor, only had 460 miles of combat range, while the Mustang had 750 miles of range, and with additional drop tanks, it increased to some 1,700 miles. The climb rate is where the much lighter Spitfire really shines. Without the excessive weight, it can achieve a climb rate of 3,650 feet per minute, while the much heavier Mustang only capable of 3,200 feet per minute. The Mark 14 Spitfire carried an armament of two 20mm cannons and four 7.7mm machine guns, though the Spitfire's armament varied a lot over its evolution. Initially, Spitfires featured only 7.7mm machine guns, but very early it was found that these were not strong enough. They required a lot of ammo spent and time on target to shoot down an enemy plane. Over the years, many different armament variations were used. A few examples: two 20mm cannons paired with two 50 caliber machine guns, two 20mm cannons paired with four 7.7mm machine guns, or four 20mm cannons. The P-51 Mustang didn't have this much variation in armament. Initially it featured four 50 caliber machine guns, which was later raised to 6. Though we need to mention, there were a few early models equipped with 20mm cannons. In general, we can say the Spitfire was a more agile and better climbing aircraft, and it was utilized as such as an interceptor for defending Britain, and as an air superiority fighter in North Africa, the Mediterranean, and Western Europe. The Spitfire served on the Pacific theater as well, where the RAF pilots had to adapt to their new and nimble Japanese opponents. They had to avoid turn fights, which was the Spitfire's strong point against the German fighters in Europe, and utilize similar tactics as the American pilots, using their speed and dive advantage for hit-and-run tactics on the Japanese planes. Meanwhile, the P-51 was mainly used as bomber escort in Western Europe, utilizing its great range and very good high-altitude performance thanks to the Merlin engine. The Mustang finally gave the Allied bomber formations a fighter that could escort them all the way to the targets and back, gradually replacing the shorter-range P-47 and P-38 fighters in this role. On the Pacific, the Mustang was a late arrival, as most of them were needed in Europe, but more and more of them appeared later in the war in this theater. With the capture of Iwo Jima, they again flew bomber escorts, this time covering the B-29 Super Fortress formations over mainland Japan. So the debate of which one of the two were the better fighter plane, I think doesn't have a simple answer. As though they were both high-performance fighters and the top of the line in their class, the two were built for different purpose and with different design philosophy. The Spitfire was a pure performance-focused interceptor, and showed it in the Battle of Britain and after. While the Mustang was a more all-around fighter, having great performance and being a good turn fighter, but it was most useful because of its great range. I think the best opinion we have is from Chief Naval Test Pilot Captain Eric Brown, so let's quote.
The Mustang was a good fighter and the best escort due to its incredible range, make no mistake about it. It was also the best American dogfighter, but the laminar flow wing fitted to the Mustang could be a little tricky. It could not by any means outturn a Spitfire. No way. It had a good rate of roll, better than the Spitfire, so I would say the pluses to the Spitfire and the Mustang just about equate. If I were in a dogfight, I'd prefer to be flying the Spitfire. The problem was I wouldn't like to be in a dogfight near Berlin, because I could never get home to Britain in a Spitfire.
The fact that both of these planes served for about a decade after World War II shows us how good they were. The Mustangs participated in the Korean War and retired in 1957, while the Spitfires also participated in conflicts in the Far East and flew their last sortie in 1954. So I think the answer to this debate, which one is better, the Mustang or the Spitfire, in the end, it depends. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and in the comments let me know if there's any interesting events or vehicles you'd like to see.